What up, Wargamers? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Stoss, and today we are back for another Let's Hobby. This is my video series where I show you what I've been working on and what I have been getting done. So, what have I been doing? I've been doing a bunch of stuff, ladies and gents, a bunch of stuff. I have completed a new unit and hero for my Empire army. I've completed a new hero/war machine for my Dwarves, a new hero for my Vampire counts, and some templates/gaming aids for the game in general, for Warhammer, the Old World specifically. So, I've been doing a bunch of stuff, people, yes! Now, the Empire unit and hero have already featured in a battle report. Technically, they're featured in 2 battle reports. One of them is already up for my channel members only, for my channel members first, but that'll be going live sometime soon for everybody. But they are already up on the channel in the previous battle report. So you've seen them before, but I figure they deserve their moment in the spotlight. One of the gaming aids/templates has also been featured in a battle report, but that is in the one currently up for members only, and everything else is fresh and brand new. So you're getting the sneak peeks here, guys, for those of you that watch my Let's Hobbies. Also, worth a little channel update. Obviously, my ability to output content has reduced to an absolute crawl as of late, since the birth of my wonderful daughter, Sophia, and it's just been very, very difficult for me to be able to find the time to take an entire day to film a battle report, and then multiple evenings to get it edited and eventually get it out there. It's a time of life for me that, you know, my ability to continue engaging in this channel has reduced significantly. So apologies for that, ladies and gents. I am doing as much as I can where I can, and with time, my ability to spend more time and kind of come back up to my output of old will come back, and it will get easier. But yes, it's been a difficult time for that for that in general. My life and, you know, my family is wonderful. I love that. I have also been relieving in a new role recently at work, which has been, again, taking up a whole lot of mind space and brain power and energy. So that has also reduced just the amount of, you know, physical output that I can give to anything, because it's been a busy time. Busy time for old Stoss. but that's where we're at. I am still committed to continuing to do this. I still love it. It's just about finding the time within my time of life at the moment. But let's have a look at what I've been doing. But before we do that, as per usual, guys, go through the YouTube things for me. If you enjoy my videos, smash a like on the video. Likes do huge things, as all the YouTubes will tell you. Putting a like on the video really affects the reach of it. It's one of the easiest ways to help the reach of a video, is just clicking that like button. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Subscribers absolutely are just going to help, you know, build the channel and build the algorithm into them seeing that this is something worth pushing out to other people as well. If you want to be an absolute lord and champion and decide to support this channel financially, consider becoming a channel member. My channel members are still absolutely the driving force behind the growth of models, equipment. You know, the money that I'm able to put into this channel is coming 100% from my channel members. So channel members, to my past, present, future channel members, thank you so much, guys. Love you so much. You know, the funds that you're sending my way are absolutely just being reinvested into this channel for the equipment, models, all the things. So any of this new stuff, it's coming from you guys. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. I can't say it enough. But without any further ado, let's have a look at what I've been working on and what I've been getting done. And here we have what I have completed for my Empire, Dwarves, and Vampire counts. I have done a unit of greatswords, a hero battle standard bearer for the Empire. For the Dwarves, I have completed an Anvil of Doom. And for my Vampire counts, I have done a Vampire Thrall battle standard bearer. Yes, look at it, aren't they glorious? So, let's start out with the greatsword. So the greatswords and the battle standard bearer have already featured in a battle report, but as I said, I think they deserved a little moment in the spotlight anyway. So yes, look at this chunky unit of greatswords plus 1 extra. Yeah, greatswords were a unit that I have, always wanted to add in to my Empire army. They're just, one of those beautiful, iconic units that, in the old world at least, before the most recent FAQ, were considered to be absolute trash in terms of, for their points, what they can do. But, I didn't care. I was working on these guys pre-FAQ, and I just wanted to have them because, again, iconic unit for the Empire. And I love them. They're super cool in their, they're apparently full plate, even though they've got ruffles everywhere. I think the idea is that they're supposed to be wearing, plates of armor underneath their ruffled sleeves and leggings and whatnot. But yes, it can be a little bit of a tough pill to swallow to look at them and say full plate armor, but narratively, in their dwarven crafted, beautiful suits of full plate armor, and their sweet greatswords, the classic Landsknecht look of that the Empire is very much, inspired by. Yes, I am very happy with how they turned out. They look super cool, and I have done them in my Middenheim colors of blue and white with, red and yellow accents. And yeah, I think they look pretty sweet. I am pretty stoked with how they came out. And, those of you with an eye for difference, there is indeed an ogre mercenary amongst their ranks, which is super cool. This is one of the War Games Atlantic ogres that you can build, and man, they are such a great kit for mixing in with Warhammer Fantasy Empire armies. Again, I think they're called Landsknecht ogres, and, perfection. You can build them in a bunch of different ways. You can give them great swords like this bad boy. You can give them halberd, spear. You can give them a basic hand weapon and shield. So I'm going to be building a bunch of these as unit fillers, just so that I can bulk out units, because they look awesome, they fit the bill, and it's just, a nice way to just kind of fill out a unit a little bit, is to have this ogre mercenary amongst the ranks, with the strength of 4 men, basically. So yeah, I reckon it's an excellent kit. It's a beautiful kit, nice hard plastic. Details solid without going over the top. It's got lots of little bits and bobs. So like the hat, came separately. The feather came separate, so stuck the hat on, stuck the feather on. I went for the bearded ogre because, Landsknecht and their fancy beards. So yeah, I reckon he's looking pretty sick. So how did I paint... And the unit is formed again. How did I paint this unit? So let's pull a guy. You'll do right at the front. I tried a different blue mix this time, because originally with my others I'd just been using Leviathan blue, which was just a very, very dark blue. And I like dark blue. Dark blue is good, particularly when it's white and blue. I thought a dark with the light of white would be a nice contrast. But it just meant that I was constantly having to highlight it up a lot, because it just ends up as an incredibly dark blue. So I tried something a bit different this time, and I believe what I used was Talassar blue, the contrast paint, and mixed it in a 4:1 ratio with the Leviathan blue. Because by itself was a little too bright, but mix it with Leviathan blue a little bit, got it to a depth of blue that I was very happy with. Now, of course, everything here has started with my usual Zenithal prime it black, and then from a top-down 45-degree angle, prime it white, so that it has this nice, light to dark underneath. The dark is very dark underneath, and it gets brighter to the top. And then, yeah, just went in with the contrast paint. So my mix of blues for the blues, hit it with Apothecary white on all of the white points, and then just gave it some really minor highlights, anywhere where it was looking a bit gross, a bit smudgy. we'd just go in with some conventional acrylics and smooth it out, give it a couple of, you know, light gray / white highlights and blue highlights. All of the flesh got to start with Guilliman flesh contrast paint, and then I went around and gave it some conventional highlights of Kislev flesh / Cadian flesh, and then Kislev flesh. I also got some Volupus pink, which is like a burgundy color. Watered that right down and put that into like the eyes and nose a bit, and around the hands, anywhere where I wanted there to be a little bit of a reddish, you know, pinkish tone, before I went and did the highlights and smoothed it all out, just to give a little bit of variation to the skin tones. I used Blood Angel's red for the feathers to give them that pop of red, and on their little, you know, scarf bits and bows that they have tied to them. For the armor, I kept using that Game Air metallic aluminum, which is a really bright, just highly pigmented silver. I've talked about it in many of my videos these days, which I initially darkened down with some black ink and then some gloss medium, just to give it a bit more body, because I wasn't using it through the airbrush. I'm just painting it on, so to give it a little bit more body, bit of gloss medium, bit of black ink, and then boom. And then from there, just the usuals, you know, Nuln Oil all over it, and then would just use a slightly, you know, a brighter version of that same silver, add a couple of drops of the silver back in to brighten it up, highlight it up, put some scratches and bits and bobs everywhere. For any of their leathers, like on the kind of handhold bits for the swords, and their caps or hats, I just used Black Templar, so they've got black leather, because they are the fanciest men with their shiny black leather. And that was pretty much it. That's more or less the workup. And I am very happy with how they ended up. I think they are looking good, and I have named the unit the Fangs of Ulrich, out of Middenheim, yes. Which is a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed painting the varied blue and white throughout the unit. Some of them have stripes, some of them just have, you know, just alternating kind of quartered things, but I just kind of went, let my imagination run wild. I just went with it. Now the champion, or the Emperor's champion as he's called, I gave this fancy yellow and red striped feather, just so he can stand out a little bit more. And he looks great with his lovely blue eye patch and his very fancy greatsword. And yeah, that's how they went. I used my regular basing mix that I use on everything, my grit mix and some rocks. And then it used the same dodgy craft store acrylic paint on all of the bases that I pretty much start with. All of my bases start with that. It's a burnt sienna. Water that down, put it over the top of everything, give it a dodgy black wash that I make at home. Gave the whole thing a dry brush of Ushabti bone, picked out some greys for the rocks, the big rocks that I put on, and then some static grass and some of this kind of like tuft foliage, which is the kind of the basing thing that I am going with my Empire. You can see it a bit better on this big old base here. I think it looks nice. It is similar, but yet still slightly different from my other armies. This is the only army that so far has this kind of clump foliage going on. Because, even though they're potentially out in Middenheim, it's not always winter there. I didn't want to go with a winter base, because more white on the base of a blue and white army, I don't know, I just didn't think it would look as good as I would like it. But there they are. That is my great sword unit. I am very happy with them, and I'm happy with the new kind of blue mix that I've got going as well. I quite enjoy this. It gets faster work done, rather than having to go just the dark blue of Leviathan blue and then being forced to highlight up a fair bit. This just kind of gives me that. It's maybe not quite as dark as I would like, but you have to make some compromises. And with this compromise, I am very happy with how they went. With my unit battle standard bearer and the unit standard bearer here, it was the first time I've ever tried, what are these things? Transfers. I'd never used a transfer before. I bought the Empire transfer sheet from, the old world. and decided to give it a crack and was absolutely sure that I was going to butcher it. But in the end, I think it's turned out looking really nice. I started off just with this little metallic silver skull one in the corner, being like, all right, start small. If I ruin this, I can scrape it off if need be. But using the classic, microset and microsol, it works a charm and really had no issues. Once, I got the first, whatever it is, I think you start with microsol on the banner, got the transfer on there, moved it around until I liked its position, let it dry a bit, and then just went with multiple coats of microset, trying to push out any air bubbles that had happened so it laid in smooth. I was very worried because this is an incredibly undulating surface, so I was like, oh boy, this is going to be tough. But it ended up really nicely, affixing and smoothing out to it, and there's pretty much no air bubbles there. And then after that, went in with a matte varnish. Once I'd done a few layers of microset, went in with a couple of layers of matte varnish as well, just to hide the edges, because without the matte varnish, kind of making it all one surface, a nice consistent surface tone and varnish, the thing itself, the transfer, was incredibly shiny compared to just the surface of the painted banner. And very much stood out. If you did any sort of this, you're like, oh yeah, look, I can see all of the edges of where that is. But once you put a matte varnish on it, it's pretty hard to see. If you really, really look for it, you can still find those edges, but generally speaking, bloody great. Very happy with how my first attempt at transfers went, because I am not big on painting freehand. I don't think I'm very good at it, and it stresses me out, but but I will do it here and there. I'll give it a shot when I can and when I think I'll be able to manage it. But sometimes I would just like to be able to put something on a banner and make it look nice without having to stress over it as much, and these were great. I will definitely be using more transfers in the future, because heck yeah. So there they are, the Fangs of Ulrich, my greatsword unit. And then I have also done up this incredibly old metal battle standard bearer for my Empire army, because I wanted a nice hero to be and represent the battle standard bearer. And here he is, this sweet old miniature with his weird proportions and his bulbous head. But he's got, this beautiful set of armor with the fantastic gold filigree on his chest and around his gorget. He's still got some ruffles on the leg. And yeah. Now, the standard itself, compared to modern standards, is very small. But it's not always about the size of the standard, ladies and gentlemen. It is the quality and how you use it and how it inspires the men. And again, went for a transfer on this bad boy. And went for, the crowned griffin, because, sometimes the griffin standard would be a thing, even though realistically, most of the time, I'm not going to give a magic standard to a battle standard bearer. You're much better off putting it on the unit standard, because you can kill a battle standard bearer, but the unit one will stay until the unit is destroyed. But I just thought it looked, regal and noble and epic, because hell yeah, with his mad gold skull on the top, and he has 3 laurels of victory hanging from the standard, which is, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. This standard has gone through many a battle and many epic victories won. And he got the exact same workup as the Fangs of Ulrich, exact same colors, exact same workup, but just on a different model. Now, those of you that have seen my last battle report will know that this guy has been named affectionately and lovingly after the gentleman that incredibly generously gifted me the Grudgebringer Mercenary Company, which was, he's the core of my Empire army. And so that gentleman's name was Grayson Brill from California. And so I have named this battle standard bearer Captain Grayson von Brill. Yes, so sick. So I am max stoked to have Grayson leading the troops on the table, inspiring them forever after. And he's done a bloody good job so far, just saying. He's done a damn fine job. Captain Grayson. Yeah, nice and simple, nothing too flashy, just nice shining filigreed armor, golds and silvers, And put like, blue leather strap on his little leather strap on the center of the armor there, holding everything together. Heck yeah, loving it. And that is Captain Grayson von Brill. Hell yeah, that is what I've been doing with the Empire. Let's move on to the rest. So let's have a look at my Anvil of Doom. Yes, heck yeah, I have wanted one of these for a little while now. And I am so happy to have one painted up and ready to hit the table. I've never used an Anvil of Doom, clearly because I've never owned one up until now. But it's always been something that I have been intrigued by. Again, it's an iconic thing for the old dwarves. The giant anvil, the only way that they get access to any sort of, offensive magic, rune magic as it is for them. And yeah, I'm very happy to finally have one. And I think it is looking pretty sweet. So this is a mix. It's a bit of a kit bash of things. So it's a 3D print, the actual Rune Lord and Anvil and the little plinth that he's on is a 3D print from Highland Miniatures. And Highland Miniatures just do some beautiful work in general, and I really like their dwarves. I think they are lovely. And as much as I love the the original Anvil of Doom, there are some elements about it that I'm just not in love with. It is a very old model. It's a beautiful model, but there were some things about it that I was like, eh. And also for the price point to actually buy one was, I don't know, it was pretty tough for me to justify it. And so instead, I bought this gentleman off Etsy. So just this guy himself, and actually one of my viewers 3D printed and sent through the anvil and the plinth itself. So thank you to you, oh viewer, that was so generously printed and sent me those things. And then the two Anvil Guard are actually just, your modern Longbeards. So they are Games Workshop models, which I have talked about in the past. I actually don't love them as Longbeards in terms of, what they are supposed to represent. I just find them to be too closely armored to something like an Ironbreaker. It's my issue with the modern sculpts, is there's not enough differentiation in their battlefield role at a glance. They just look, like they're basically wearing your full plate. The main difference is they've got these, these skirts of what is this, scale and chain, rather than it all just being big old pieces of plate. But still, nonetheless, they look, for me, too heavily armored to just be wearing heavy armor, essentially. But for them to be fitting the role of, the honored Anvil Guard, beautiful. I think they fit that bill perfectly. And so this is the unit champion for the Longbeards, but instead of having the big double-handed axe, I've just given him a hammer. And similarly, this is a body and shield of just a regular Longbeard, but then giving him an arm from the Hammerer's kit. So yeah, and I think they do a very good job of looking like Anvil Guard. I tried to make them, kind of standing at ease, like they're not immediately fighting right now, because that was kind of the vibe of the old Anvil Guard, is they are just, they are standing at guard, but not, fighting at the time. So, the unit champion resting on the shield looks great, and the hammered down arm of this guy just shows that they're waiting and standing at the ready, but not right now in combat. So yes, there it is. I am very stoked with it. And yeah, how did I paint it? What did I use? They got, the same kind of workup that all of my dwarves get. So I have used that same old metallic, Zenithal Prime, of course, as always. The same Game Air metallic, mixing it down to get darker versions, and then using it clean for highlights. I used Balthazar Gold for all of the brass or bronze, so for their chainmail shirts, and for various parts, their helmets and whatnot. And then your Retributor armor for all of the traditional gold. I started with Orc Flesh contrast paint for any of the cloth, so the green cloth. And then from there gave it a highlighting work up of Warpstone Glow and then Moot Green to give it some pop and some highlight. Used Apothecary White on his beard and then, put some Nuln oil into like some of the recess of the beard to darken it down a bit, and then highlighted it back up with some light grays and a tiny bit of, pure white. And that's pretty much it. And again, for any of the gems and like the background of the shields, I just used that same Orc Flesh contrast paint. I just made sure that it had a solid coat of the brightest silver of that game air, and then just put a coat of the contrast paint over the top of it to give it this lovely, metallic green behind the shield. And I just used that same on the gemstones on the armor. So, the little green gemstones you can see dotted around or in the beard, same thing. Just started with a solid coat of silver and then contrast paint over the top. And it's just a nice, simple way to quickly get a bit of a popping gem happening. I know you should do all of the crazy work on the gems to make them look proper, but sometimes I just don't have the time and patience to do it. And this just gets it done, looking pretty nice, pretty simply. Went for like your blonde beard on one and a dark brown beard on the other. My usual workup for the flesh was just, Gilliman flesh to start off with. Oh, actually, I think I used the other one, the dark one for these boys. I started with Dark Oath flesh, gave them, a little bit of the Volupus pink around the knuckles and whatnot and the elbow, and then highlighted it up with your conventional acrylic Games Workshop flesh colors. And there they are. I think they're looking pretty sweet. I went for a red book that he has there on his hip, and red wrappings on his hammer and the hammers of his boys. And then to try and make it look a little bit like, they've got some magic going on here. The rune that he has in his little tongs there, I just started with a bright silver and then put some watered down Talassar blue onto it, so it's got like a glowing magical element to it, and then dry brushed it silver again, and just did the exact same for his rune hammer itself. Same thing, gave it the silver Talassar blue, and then a dry brush of the silver again, just to make it clear that there's some magical stuff going on here. I also put some of that Talassar blue into the eyes of the anvil. You can see it's actually got a little dwarf face in there to show that there is magic held in the anvil and some of the runes going down by its face. Because the idea is that what's actually happening is this rune, has been created, which has been filled with runic magic. And then the Rune Lord slams it and smashes it and cracks it open, unleashing the magic that is held within onto the battlefield, which is super cool. I dig that. It's like they've made a bunch of different runes, filled with different kinds of magic, and they'll pull them out and just slam them open, and it unleashes it, which is it's a really cool idea and a cool image for how dwarves can manage to, even though they despise magic. Runic magic, the magic of craftsmanship is a very different thing. And I dig that. I dig that a lot. And they destroy it and unleash it. So yeah, super cool, super stoked to have my rune lord and his anvil ready to give it a crack. So I dare say my next dwarven battle is going to feature this, because I want to give it a shot, see what it's all about. Seems like a bit of a beast in this in the old world. In 6th edition, not so sure, but at some point when 6th edition dwarves hit the table again, I'll probably give it a crack there too. So yes, and then the plinth, as I say, was part of the 3D print that came with it, but I just popped it up on some cork, a couple of layers of cork just to give it a bit of height. Maybe just one? Yeah, no, one layer of cork on the base just to pop it up a bit, and then did my usual grit mix. The whole thing, grit mix, extra rocks. Dry brushed it all, the stone color this time, as I do with my dwarves, to make it look like we're in the mountains, the mountainous rocks. And then the usual stuff, and just some static grass for the dwarves, growing here where they have chiseled out this plinth and brought one of their anvils to lay waste to the Dawi's enemies. Heck yeah, love it, so cool. That is my Anvil of Doom done, and now we have my Battle Standard Bearer for my Vampire counts, my Vampire Thrall Battle Standard Bearer. And again, an incredibly old metal miniature. that I managed to pick up for, more than I should have spent on it, but still, I really like it with his flayed man banner. This guy has been primed. He was one of the original things that I had primed for the vampire counts. He was supposed to be supposed to be part of the initial starting roster, and for whatever reason I didn't get him finished when they were done, and then he just got pushed further and further back to the back of the pile. But now he is here. Narratively, he is Sir Dragislav's brother. This is Sir Dragomir von Kurz. And the kind of narrative I have going is that the flayed man on the banner is their father. So when they got turned, they came back to their keep, overthrew their father, flayed him, and now carry him into battle so that they can sit there, talking to him like, "Are you proud of us now, Papa? You see what we do in the name of Von Kurz." So sick. So the family stays together, which is very cool. And I love it. I love it so much. It is such a grisly and disgusting model. And, he's even got the cape of flayed flesh as well. Heck yeah. God, it's grim, it's gross, it's perfectly vampiric. I am so stoked on him. He is so sick. Yes, Dragomir. And so, I've painted him as I have all of my vampires. I've given him the blood red armor of the blood dragons. I used, what is it? Flesh Tearers red, and then highlighted it up. Similarly, I've given him like a dark blue / black kind of cape skirt thing here going on. And then the banner, which is obviously, the main focus of this bad boy, is super gross. So it just started with its normal zenithal prime, and then I just went in with very watered down glazes of contrast paints. So I started with, a really, really watered down version of Gilliman Flesh, just so that there is a little bit of flesh tone in there. I went in with a bunch of really watered down Volupus Pink all around the stitches across the middles. Pushed that into the hands and, around the edges of it, anywhere I thought that the flesh would be, inflamed and bruised and gross. It went in with some really watered down Plague Bearer flesh as well to put in some greenish tones here and there because it's a little bit old, this flappy flesh. And then went in with some blood. So some of it was some fresh blood, just sponged on. Some of it I went some very watered down acrylic paints like corn red and sponged that all across the middle and stitches areas to make it look really gross and just to rough up the surface a bit. I also did the kind of like old blood mix, which I used Typhus Corrosion, which is a technical paint with a little bit of texture in it. It's like this grey brown technical paint that I mix with your blood, your bloodletter, I think it is, or blood for the blood god is the actual, the very wet technical paint to make blood splatter. Mix those two things together, which creates this like brownish old blood kind of thing, and then put that all over it as well, just in various blotches and splotches. And I have done some freehand on this banner, ladies and gentlemen. That dragon that you see, the black dragon, is freehanded by me. And I just kind of went for it. Started with some really simple shapes. Started with like that snaking shape and then a basic shape for a wing. And slowly built it out from there, just in black. And I was pretty stressed on this one because I didn't have any solid acrylic paints on the banner itself. If I made any big mistakes, I couldn't just get whatever color I'd painted the banner and do it again because the banner was zenithal primed and then glazed with a bunch of different things. So there was no conventional paint I could just get to cover things up. So yeah, there was no cover-ups. Everything you can see here was put down, and once it was down, that's it. So this was a stressful one for me. But, I think it ended up looking pretty good. I then obviously went in with some greys to put in some details, the scales of its belly, the bit of highlighting around the head and the texture of the wing and that kind of deal. A red eye with a couple of reds in there. I put, a cross with blood teardrops coming from it because I thought that seemed, appropriately vampiric. The bleeding cross. The cross crying tears of blood. Yes. Yes, and there he is. There is the main man. Well, I guess the second main man. the second in command, Sir Dragomir von Kurz. Yes, brother to Sir Dragislav. So sick. I think he looks pretty good. I am very happy with him and would very much like to try him in an upcoming game of the old vampire counts. I know vampire counts, don't typically use battle standards that much, though apparently in the old world they have a little bit more utility these days, allowing you to re-roll all leadership tests, which means, when it comes time to be re-rolling or to be taking, the test that you have to do to raise the dead and things like that and heal units, that's a leadership test, and having a battle standard will just allow you to re-roll that. So, super sick. I am very happy with how he's turned out and with my attempt at some freehand. I know I say I don't like doing it, but every now and then I'll attempt it, and I was stoked with this one. This is one that you couldn't really put a transfer on, or you could put a couple of small ones like in the corners, but you couldn't have anything going over the center of all that grisly stitching. But there it is. That is what has been happening with my armies. Let's have a look what I've been doing with my templates. And here are my 3 painted magical vortex templates for Warhammer the Old World. Yes! So I have very much been wanting something like this because one of the things I've hated about the magic system, honestly, there's not a great deal about the magic system of the Old World that I do like, but one of the things that always upset me, because I'm such a visual person, I like things to look nice, is just having these clear plastic templates just sitting on the field, roaming around as your magical vortex. Of course, you can use your imagination and see that magical vortex in your mind, but I just hate how it looks, having just clear plastic templates on the field constantly. It ends up making it look crap. We've got lovely battle mats and lovely terrain and beautifully painted models, setting a scene, and then just plastic disc. I very much disliked it. So I always wanted something to properly represent the magical vortexes in the game. And I got these, and it kills me, but I can't remember where I got them from. They started getting kind of advertised a little while ago. There was a gentleman that created them, and you can get them on My Mini Factory as STLs for you to print yourself. I don't have a 3D printer, but at some point I saw someone advertising that you could buy physical prints of them, and I jumped on it immediately and bought the whole set. And it comes with pretty much every magical vortex. Now these are the 3 that I have painted, but I have one now for everything. The only thing that it didn't have at the time was a Foot of Gork. There was no foot template, but I think he has since added that as another thing as well. But I've bought another one from somewhere else. But anyway, I digress. These are the 3 that I have painted at the moment. Now this one, the Pillar of Fire, has already featured in a battle report. It's up for members only at the moment, but will be coming, free for everybody else sometime soon. And so, yes, it is the great swirling Pillar of Fire. And I think it looks very cool. In fact, I think all of the magical vortexes the gentleman has made look excellent. I will say that it's maybe a little big at the top for what I would want for a Pillar of Fire, because the bases are the correct size for the template. This is the exact same size as the template that you have moving around. And as you can see, it flowers out, it blossoms at the top significantly, which kind of makes it feel like it should be bigger than it actually is down here. But that's a super minor gripe. As far as, something to be on the field, showing this fantastic conflagration, this swirling, flaming doom coming towards units, so good. God, I love it. And so, of course, when the time comes, if a unit moves onto it or something like that, or it moves onto a unit, as soon as you're having to start measuring things and putting things out, you're getting your template and you're putting it from there and you're measuring it across. And yes, there might be ever so slight inaccuracies because you're going from a template here, grabbing another template and measuring out. But I will take tiny inaccuracies any day to have something on the field that looks nice, and this absolutely Looks amazing. Another thing that it does a great job of is you remember that it actually is there and you have to move it. You know, sometimes we'll just have a template sitting around because we've recently done like a shot of a grudge throw or whatever, and it'll be sitting off to the side on the table somewhere. And so you don't even think it, your brain starts to edit it out a little bit. But having this on the table, bloody oath, you'll remember that this thing has to move and that this is on the table and needs to be kept, in mind, either to be dispelled or to move at the start of turns, because it's pretty hard to miss. Yeah, so that is the Pillar of Fire. We also have the Vortex of Chaos, which is also super cool. I don't know if I love how I've painted it that much, to be honest. I think the Vortex needs a bit of work. I basically, worth noting, this was all painted with contrast paint. So these two both just got solid sprays of an ivory out of a rattle can, just dosed it down with ivory real hard to see if I could also, with said spray paint, fill in some of the print lines that are always a part of a 3D printed thing, and that did actually work pretty good. There's not a whole lot of detail I'm worrying about missing in something like this, so I gave them a solid rattle can spraying, and then just went in with contrast paints. So this one was the Iyenden Yellow, I believe, Iyenden Yellow all over, and then I got maybe Troll Slayer Orange or Griffhound Orange, Griff Charger Orange, whatever the basic orange one is, I can't remember. And then we'd kind of glaze that into any of the higher points, and then, water, get some, so I'd, paint some orange onto here, wet my brush, and then feather it out, air all the way around. And then after that, at the very tippy tops of bits, got some Flesh Tearers Red. So it's going from that swirling bright yellow and then hitting out to the orange and reds as it hits, further and further out. It took a little while because it's big, it's a lot of surface to cover, but in terms of the actual painting, it was really therapeutic and simple, just slapping down yellow all over it, glazing in some orange, glazing in some red, and boom, there we have the Pillar of Fire. This one, similarly, got that starting rattle can of ivory, and then I just used some gray for the rocks that it is, swirling up into it. And then a grey contrast paint, and then I used, I can't remember, oh, damn it, I wish I could, but I used a blue/teal contrast paint for the swirling portal itself, and then did Balthazar Gold for the icon, and then just gave everything little bits of dry brushes, a little bit of brown, got mixed in, watered down brown, got mixed into the rock, and then dry brushed with greys. I feel like the portal could use a little bit more love, something, maybe go like some purples glazed around the outside and then some blue, and then so it's getting like darker to lighter, just a little bit more than just this one swirling magic color that I got going here. Like, it's serviceable, it'll be fine, and from the table, it'll look like a cool chaos vortex swirling around the table, ripping up the stones and rocks, and this icon, and then it's a very cool looking thing. I kind of just ran out of time. I was trying to get it painted up for a game, thinking that it was going to get used. In the end, it didn't get used. Very sad. but it's ready for the next time I have someone that takes chaos and they happen to roll up this spell and they get it off. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen for these to actually hit the table. But I'm just going to slowly start working through them and getting them painted up. I'll basically just wait until I've got a game where I'm like, oh yep, someone will probably use that Law of Magic. Let's get that template painted so that if they roll it and they cast it, I've got something for it. Beautiful model, looks really cool, nicely designed. I just think I could maybe do a little more work on the portal. What do you think? Is the swirling, portal of chaos fine the way it is? Should I go a bit of like a purple blue and then leave some of this, light in the middle so it's got that changing color? It's clearly, got that sense of change and zinch to it. It's even got a bit of a zinch icon in the middle of it because magic is Zinch's realm, of course. Or do I leave it like it is? Do I not bother? Either way, it looks sick and it is more or less ready to go. And then this one is the one for elementalism, which is summon an elemental spirit. And so we have this rock elemental bursting out of the earth, smashing up out of the crust of rock, and coming to lay waste to people tramping around and dung, 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 smashing and hammering anything in its path. This amazing, very cool, like rock golem / elemental. Very nice. Another very cool one, which I dig incredibly. Now this one was done slightly different. This one got a rattle can of brown firstly all over, and then got a rattle can of grey from above, a zenithal grey. So it just had that initial, so you can see some of the down in the deep rocks there, it's this dark brown which goes up to grey. And then it got a, you can see the dark brown again underneath and on the chest. It got an all over wash of a very, very watered down brown paint, that acrylic, that dodgy craft store acrylic that I talk about, that I use for my earth colors on my bases. Watered that right down and washed it over it, and then just dry brushed it. Dry brushed it a bunch of grays, and boom, there we have the elemental spirit, which can be pulled out, which is so cool. So for my Empire army, I am usually using, my fire mage who'll be using this, or my elemental mage who would be potentially calling this one up. So heck yeah, look at these fantastic, magical vortex, templates that I have to represent these spells on the field. I don't know about you, but I think they are 1,000,000 times better than just having a clear plastic disc representing them. So super stoked on that. I just need to start working my way through the rest, so I have one for everything. But that is it, guys. That's it. That's what I've been working on template-wise, and that is what I have been getting done for my armies. And there it is. There it is. I have painted, I've done my unit of great swords and battle standard bearer for my empire, a anvil of doom for my dwarves, a battle standard bearer for my vampire counts, and 3 magical vortexes to represent these swirling elemental magical things on the battlefield. Super stoked to have all of that out there. What am I going to start working on next? I really want to, I've got some plans for my dwarves. Clearly I still have the old longbeards, the metal longbeards that I love so much. They are still absolutely high on the list of things that need to be painted. Alessandro, I'm sorry I have not yet started them. They are primed, they're primed and ready to go, so they are very, very close to the top of the list of things. I have been doing a lot of painting, so I think next I might just do a little bit of building some stuff. I want to build my dwarf king on shield bearers, because that is something I've always wanted to have in my army, and I've got the new old world one, and it is a beautiful model, and I want to get that built so that it can get, in primed and in the line of things to get painted, because I would love to try a king on shield bearers. Super sick. It's that beautiful, like Asterix and Obelix thing of, the guys on the shield. Completely impractical to actually think of, fighting on something like that. But I can absolutely suspend my disbelief and just enjoy that beautiful spectacle of the dwarf king on the shield, and it's just so great because he's short and now he's up high. It's so good. Same as oath stones, anything that, the dwarves get up a bit higher on these things to look eye to eye with their enemies. It's beautiful. I love it. What else? I still need to add more things to my Empire army. I need to add more infantry units, I think. I want some more stuff and some more interesting things for my Empire. I've got a steam tank that I need to build for them. Again, another perfectly iconic unit. Want to get a steam tank, so maybe I'll build my Dwarf Lord. Maybe I'll build a steam tank in terms of some models to build. Get them primed, and then maybe my longbeards for my dwarves would be the next big unit that I'm going to pump out. I still want to do some more stuff for my vampire counts. I need more Black Knights because I've only got a unit of 6 of them, I think. And although 6s, it's a nice little just front rank block of knights, I want to do up a mounted vampire character. The classic Blood Dragon Knight mounted. At the moment, all of my vampires are on foot, which is sick. I still love Blood Dragons on foot, tramping through the mud and muck and through the graveyards in their full plate, clunk, clunk, is also very cool. but I want a mounted one as well. And in which case, I want a bigger bunker of Black Knights to hold it, so I want at least a unit of 10 of them, so that I could just throw out a unit of 10 by itself. But with my 6, that means I need to paint 3 to have, you know, a unit of 10 with him in it, but I want more than that. So more Black Knights, that's coming up for sure. I want to build and paint some Black Orcs with great weapons, because that is something that's kind of missing from the collection at the moment as well. Both, you know, I could just paint a few of them to make a bit of a motley crew unit, which would be sweet. But I'd also like to paint like a full unit of great weapon boys as well, so that if I wanted to just take a unit of great weapons, I can. Because heck yeah, and they are missing that heavy infantry can opener a little bit. Black Orcs, particularly in the old world, do suffer a bit from a lack of AP, unlike most other kind of, I don't know, elite infantry units that start at strength 4. They weren't just given a rule like Grom rule weapons or you know, or ensorcelled blades. They just give them that point of AP that they would have used to have back in 6th edition when, you know, strength 4 was, you know, negative your armor by 1. So Black Orcs, for whatever reason, didn't get that, and so they do suffer a little bit from a lack of AP. So, you know, they can get it, you know, obviously with choppers on the charge, they get AP 1, and you can give them things like the Razor standard if you're giving them double hand weapons, so that maybe you're getting those, you know, those 6s to wound, and then Armor Bane comes through. So you can do it, absolutely. But just having some native AP in that unit would of course benefit them a lot. So I want to do some great weapon boys. I do want to try and get some monsters out there, some of the big flaps, you know, just to play it. It's something I've never really played before, except way back in the day in my original Undead army before they split to Vampire Counts and Tomb Kings, back when you could get mummies and vampires all in the same army, and skeleton chariots. I did have a zombie dragon back then. Had the old metal zombie dragon. I do still have it, but it is caked in gross paint because I was, I don't know, 11. So would love to get some big flying monsters out there. Now, am I going to do, you know, the horrible, well, I don't know. I still don't even know how I would build them, but I probably wouldn't build them in the most crazy overpowered way. But I want to try and get it, and I want to make sure that if I am playing with them, that A, my opponent is aware that it's going to be a flying monster game, and B, ideally, like if I'm getting Matty B over here, for example, to play, and he's going orcs and goblins or vampires or whatever, I would like to have one on each side, because that's when it's really fun, when there's that, you know, there's, you know, a couple of lords on giant flying things or whatever, or it's my dwarves just trying to cope with it. Either way. But I do have an orc on wyvern model, needs to be built and all of that stuff. I do have an Imperial General on Griffin model, needs to be painted. And I've got a zombie dragon for my vampire count. So I've got the models, they're there, they just need to get worked up. And I do want to try them. It's a fantasy game and I want to see what big flying monsters are all about. What I don't want is, you know, horribly skewed and unbalanced games by one person having, you know, a crazy lord on monster and other people not having the tools to deal with it. So when those times come to get them there, I'll do my best to make sure that there are things to mitigate those things. Because, I mean, post-FAQ, post the new FAQ, I imagine that they're not as big an issue as they used to be. They don't have the combat res that they used to from being close order. You need to have, you know, at least unit strength 10 now to gain that close order combat res. Infantry typically is getting much more combat res because of all of the new rules that they get. So they're probably not as big a deal as they used to be, and maybe I'm overthinking having to make sure that it's leveled and fair, but either way, those are the kind of games that I enjoy. But I do want to try and get some big monsters on the field at some point. That would be a bit of fun. But that is plans for the future. Plans for the future, ladies and gents. Short term, I think I'll build my Dwarf King. I think I'll build a steam tank. Maybe build some more Black Knights. I think the first thing I'll paint will be those long beards, those beautiful long beards from Alessandro, from Rome, Alessandro. So I can get them out there because they are one of my favorite dwarven miniatures of all time. But there it is, guys. Put it in the comments. What did you think about the stuff that I've put out? You know, my new models. What did you think about the kind of kit bash conversion of my Anvil of Doom using, you know, conventional Games Workshop Anvil Guard / you know, Longbeards as Anvil Guard and the Highland miniature on the actual anvil? What do you think of the new Magical Vortex templates? I think they're sick, but let me know what you think. Put it in the comments what you would like to see me adding to my armies and what you'd like to see me working on it. If there's, you know, gaps in my model range or what I currently have, and you're like, you know what, I would like to see this thing, put it in there, because that absolutely helps me choose what I'm going to put in there. There's one gentleman, Farmerwall, I believe it is, who was, you know, consistently calling for a flame cannon for my dwarves, and it absolutely put the boot up my ass and was like, you know what, hell yeah, flame cannon for you, mate, I'll do it. So, you know, if there's something you want to see added to my armies, put it in the comments. Let me know what you want to see coming up. If you enjoyed the video, guys, smash a like on it. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. But until next time, I'm Stoss. Happy wargame, and be good to your mother.